Okay, we are live. Hi, I'm David with Comic Book Investments, and I am here with Derrick Evans, and he is, local to where I live too, San Diego, and I've been watching his channel for probably about 6 years, and I pretty much watch him for my real estate investment advice and what's going on with the market, interest rates. I mean, he even dabbles in crypto. And yeah, so I'm gonna give Derrick the floor. Tell me a bit about your background and what's going on.
Yeah, man. So thanks for having me. That's
Mm-hmm.
awesome that you've been watching the channel for so long. I don't have a huge following, but I'd say I have a loyal following because keep it real. So we're gonna keep it real today, and I definitely do more than dabble in crypto. I'm a little scared how much Bitcoin I own, to be honest with you. I'm so long Bitcoin. I told my wife, either we're gonna get filthy rich or we're gonna start all over. So that's basically what's going on.
At what point did you get in? What was your earliest coin that you bought?
I didn't get in until after Michael Saylor got in. So, and I used the dollar cost average strategy, the same thing I use for investing in stocks, mutual funds. I really don't like mutual funds. I have some in the 401k, but I prefer the ETFs like the IVV, for example, 0.9 fee. That's about as low as it gets for diversified investment vehicle that tracks the S&P. But I started dollar cost averaging in after Saylor got in. So this is into the 30s and 40s the first time around. And so I've been buying every week the whole way up into the 60s, the whole way back down into the high 20s again. And now we're back up to I think mid 50s. So I try not to look at it too much because for me it's a long term.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure in 10 years the price of Bitcoin will make everyone jaw drop.
Yeah.
That's my thesis basically. Is it's scarce. It's being accumulated by people with big money. In fact, did you see today George Soros' fund, his fund manager, George Soros' big fund, apparently all of the family has the money in, owns Bitcoin.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I got in at when it was $4,000 a coin.
No.
But no. Wait.
No. You got out. You sold it
I got in at 4,000, wrote it up, and remember I had that big, it was somewhere in December, January of a couple years ago. It went up to 19 and then crashed. And what happened was, stupidly, I was like, okay, I'm out. And I sold it all because I'm like, I don't know, this is so risky. And then it started going up again. And so then I bought again, and then it went down again. I bought it. And I was like, finally, I just I'm done. It went, I put it all into Ethereum and just let it go down to where it went down to the bottom. And then over time, it came back up. But I lost a lot of money on those buying and selling over and over, and yeah.
That's why I do everything I can to stay away from it. Just accumulate. Yeah. Accumulate. Don't look at it. Doesn't matter if the price is going down. Cool. I'm getting more sats, right?
Yeah.
The price is going up. Hey, it makes the account look better. But either way, the bottom line is I'm going to continue to accumulate for the next 10 years. If it takes that long, I'll be honest with you though. Bitcoin hits 400 grand, you may never hear from me again. Actually, you will, because all I'll do is make videos and talk about
yeah. So it's such a wild thing because it's so hard to understand because it's so kind of new, and it's you really don't know where it's gonna go. I know China banned all crypto, officially banned it, and so it's what if the U.S. does that? What if other countries do that? It's so risky, but I look at it as okay, I'm putting this money. I'm not going to put most of my investment in that, but I allocate some money per month to put into crypto. But it could hit really big or it can hit really small. So it's definitely risky.
China did ban it, but they still can't stop it. And so that's one of the things that's really interesting. They made it illegal. They fully banned and made it illegal. But Bitcoin just needs the internet. You have to ban the internet in order to ban Bitcoin. So you really can't ban it as much. You can make it illegal if you want to, which is a super authoritarian, totalitarian like viewpoint on it. But we've just recently seen both Janet Yellen and Gary Gensler, the SEC secretary, both have said they have absolutely no plans to ban it. And one of the things that's nice about being in America, many things, is that we have protection. So like when you have like a Michael Saylor, Elon Musk, Jack, Dempsey or Dorsey? I always get it wrong. Dempsey? Dempsey?
Yeah, I think it's Dempsey. Maybe. I don't know. Well, I know what you're talking about.
I always get it wrong. Jack from Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter, Square. These companies own lots of Bitcoin. And so there are protections. If something were to happen, these are also companies that are regulated by the SEC and Feds. So these companies have way more money in it than we do, way more money in it to lose than you and I do. They have way more legal assistance, than you and I do. If there was an attack on Bitcoin that came from, the U.S. government, they would hear from it from Elon Musk and those guys and their attorneys, because Bitcoin has already been declared by the government as personal property. So that's the reason why the SEC doesn't know what to do, because we can't regulate personal property. It's not a company. There's no CEO. It's just code. That's it. And it's code that is designed to be currency, that is designed to be store of value, designed to be deflationary. Basically, the perfect investment. If you were able to design an investment and say, okay, I'm going to design the perfect investment. This is it. And no one can mess with it. Like I said, there's no CEO. There's no lobbying. There's no one who can say, hey, change the rules. Hey, add more. You can't add more coins than are allotted. You keep it completely open, so it's totally transparent. Someone was telling me yesterday, I'm scared of Bitcoin because they use it for all these illegal things, and I think they may crack down on it. You can't do that. It's completely open source. You can see all the transactions that have ever taken place. You can see who did what, when, and where. It's completely transparent. So the FBI doesn't need a warrant. They can just log into Glassnode and see everything just like everybody else. It's something that is hard for people to understand. It took me a long time to understand it. I didn't understand it until I heard Michael Saylor talk about it, and that's when I started buying it. If I had heard him talk about it, when it was 1,000, I probably would have bought it at that time.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So I think there's a lot to worry about when it comes to what's going to happen with the price of Bitcoin. You can pretty much just expect what happens to it.
Yeah. I think I look at it and I see that it has so much potential. And the thing is, you just have to get people behind it, because we have people behind the American dollar, and the American dollar is not backed by anything. It's just we all agree that a dollar is worth a dollar. So it's just it's going to take a while, but to get everyone on board, that's like, this is worth X, and
I can tell you that how many people are already on board. It takes you, as of today, hold on, let's look right now. As of this moment, it takes you 54,253 of those US dollars to get one Bitcoin.
Well, I personally think that the US dollar is getting worth less and less because of all the printing. So there's your proof of concept right there. Bitcoin hit $1 a long time ago. It has outpaced the dollar long before any type of mainstream adoption, in publicly traded companies and so forth. So for me, I think it's one of those things. People, test whatever you're comfortable with from a risk standpoint. Put it in there. Like if you're saying, hey, this could all go away. That's a possibility. Have it be an amount you can live with. Don't necessarily be like me and be crazy and go all in. But, mortgaging your house and selling all your assets.
I feel really good about it. If I'm wrong, one thing you learn about trading and investing is like, if you make a good investment, sometimes you make money, sometimes you lose money. So the question is, was it a good investment? And that usually is bound by, did you have a plan? Did you believe in it? Did you have good reason to believe in it? And did you stick to your plan? If you do those things, sometimes you make money, sometimes you lose money, but it's still a good investment or a good trade. And for me, I think it's a good investment. I'll be completely okay with it one way or the other. That's what it is. I do have backup plans. But I'm definitely super long Bitcoin. So there's no dabbling going on over here.
Cool. So, but yeah, you also do, beyond crypto, you do real estate as well. So
my day job is as a home loan guy. I'm a loan officer. I do mortgages and love real estate. Just love it. I've always loved it for a lot of the same reasons I love Bitcoin. That's why they call Bitcoin digital real estate. The thing about real estate, especially we're seeing it now, the supply squeeze. You have institutions are purchasing real estate as bond replacement right now.
What's it called? BlackRock or Blackstone, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah.
BlackRock is, but there's 200 plus other institutions known
Yeah.
that are buying real estate like this, and that includes places like Zillow, Redfin, Open Door, these companies. There's some chatter out there that they're trying to manipulate the market in the sense like, okay, let me give you an example. That, okay, well, hey, we're this huge fund, we have all this money, we'll buy 100 homes in this zip code, and we'll buy them just very sneakily. We won't overpay too much. We'll just come in, make cash offers until we accumulate enough of them. And then we'll buy the next 10 in the zip code, and we'll pay way over. We'll offer way over ask, way over list, way over appraised value, no contingencies to create your comps. And therefore, they'll be able to potentially sell the other homes for a big profit. There's some talk that that's happening. I haven't seen anyone execute that. That's what some people believe is going on. I don't have any evidence for it, but it is something I'm keeping an eye on, because I'm always looking at a market like the real estate market right now, especially here in San Diego, we're up 20% year over year. But also, you can't forget, I just looked this up this morning, average rent in San Diego for a house on June 18th is $3,025.
Wow.
Today, it's $3,200. So in just a few months, it's gone up 5%.
Jeez. Wow. I rented out my other house, and I had plenty of time. So I'm like, I'm gonna start off really high, what I thought was high, and then work my way down. And I start out and I got someone, and it's a 3-bed, 2-bath townhome in Bonita, and it's $2,900. That's what I'm renting it out for. And but the crazy thing is, I bought that house a little over 3 years ago, and I got in. I think I got 400,000, and I've refied so many times because I had to try really hard to get in. My interest rate was 6.1% when I first, and then I refied a year later down to 3.75, and I just refied like 6 months ago or 4 months ago for I think 2.375. So my mortgage with HOA and everything is $2,200. So I'm in 3 years, basically I'm positive $700 a month now. Every now that I rent it out, and I'm like, which I will have to thank you for that, because you were the one that finally, I decided to pull the trigger and buy a house because I watched your channel, and I'm like, okay, he knows San Diego. He keeps on saying, just get in, and the market's not going anywhere, because I'm sure if anyone's looking for a house, they're looking at the market, and then they'll see all negative news. It's going to crash. This is going to happen. Crash, crash, crash. Don't buy. Too high. And there'll always be negative news, because that's the stuff that, gets views. But the reality is it didn't happen. And I told everyone else to buy. My brother waited another 4 years till he finally bought a few months ago. And he always thought the market was going to go down too. And I'm like, don't listen to him.
It's a tough stance to take, right? Even right now, people are saying, well, hey, now it's got to come down. This huge year, COVID, all that stuff didn't make sense. It's got to come down now. And the problem with getting on board with that idea is that it just hasn't worked well. So we're up, this will be 10 or 11 straight years. We're going to see positive growth for listed values in San Diego. So it's tough to say, all right, well, now this is the year. You've been wrong for so many years in a row. It's tough to take that, but you don't need to buy at the bottom to win in real estate. That's the beautiful thing about it. All you have to do is just buy it, keep it. That's it. You don't have to be savvy. You have to be smart. You don't have to look up anything, do any continuing education, nothing. All you have to do is just buy it and keep it. That's it.
You have to live somewhere. So you have to live somewhere. So you pretty much have to, live. So you need to buy something to live in. I think what it is like millennials, which is like my generation, is a little scared because we went through the '08 crash and we saw what happened to our parents, or maybe people at that time had a house. And like my brother, he owned a house then, and he bought in '06, I think, and he went through the crash. But then I bought my first house in '09, so I have a very different perspective of buying. And even if you bought '05, '06, which is like, I guess, the peak of the market, you would be on top right now. You would be making a lot of money. So it took under 10 years probably for you to bounce back from its peak.
9.5 years on average. Yeah.
Yeah. Somewhere around there. So
that was worst case scenario. Like, you were the person who bought the last house before everyone decided that the market was going to go down. And, you look at median prices.
Yes.
That was a really culmination of every single thing working against us. That's really what it was. We had a decreasing amount of people turning 33 years old, which is first-time buyer age, average first-time buyer age. So that was decreasing during that time, which now is set to increase for the next 4 years. It has been increasing for the last 10 years. So, there was rents were cheap. We didn't have a supply issue. Rents were so cheap, in fact, kept me from buying a place at one point, because I was looking at this, I guess you would call it, it's not a townhome, but it's not a detached, it's one of those detached condos in Scotland, Mission Valley. And, there was $700,000 is what they wanted for it. And I looked across the street, there was a for rent sign, they were renting one for $1,850. And I was like, let's see, payment for $700,000, $1,850. You know what? I'll rent this place for a year and just see if I like it, like living here, before I buy a place for $700,000. So we had really cheap rents back then because no one was renting. Everyone could buy, so there was no one renting. We don't have that now. As I just mentioned, rents continue to go up. And that is the thing that is what's fueling the institutional purchases of real estate. It's bond replacement. So back before the crash, the institutions were buying bonds from Wall Street, which Wall Street had gathered up all this crappy paper, mortgage paper, people who really couldn't afford to buy a home, packaged it up as AAA, got the bond agencies to sign off on it, and then they sold it to Iceland, Greece, your pension fund, etc. And so it was a ruse. Now what's happening is those big investment firms are just buying the houses directly and using property management companies, which they own, to manage them. So there is no middleman anymore who can knock it up, and there is no valuation needed. Instead of buying a bond, you buy the actual house, you get better tax advantages, you get the depreciation if it comes, you also get the rent. And so it works just like a bond, but better. And that's what we're doing. And I don't think they're going to stop. And my greatest fear, which I've been talking about for 10 years, is that one day us regular people won't be able to buy it.
Yep.
It'll be so expensive that only rich people can buy it. And most of the institutions will own it, and everyone will be a renter. So when you hear the urgency in my voice telling people to buy real estate, it's not just because I'm a loan guy and I want to do your loan. Do your loan with whoever, but make sure you own a piece of real estate. You got to own a piece of real estate, even if it's just one, even if it's just your primary. That's okay. That's okay. But make sure you own something, because your kids and your grandkids may need it. They may need it in order to live a decent life.
So here's my question, because I tell people the same thing, but someone that is renting, and rent is generally probably cheaper than owning. What is your, I guess you said just get in, but what is some steps they can take to start to think about that process? Because you need to save for a down payment, all that kind of stuff. But what is your advice to people that are hesitant to get in because their mortgage is all of a sudden is going to be, maybe the rent's, $3,500 and now their mortgage is going to be $4,500, something like that. What is your advice to those people? Because they might not be able to afford what they're currently living in.
Right. And sometimes that's part of the reason that people rent for too long. Well, we've got this house and we've got a good landlord and they're not raising the rent on us too much. And, we could never buy this house, but we can rent this house. And so what you're basically doing is throwing good money after bad. And you're basically setting yourself up for failure. So what you need with real estate is you need time. So you need to buy something that you can hold for a long period of time. You may have to, here's the bad news, right? The bad news, you may have to sacrifice a little bit.
Yeah.
So first thing you do is always make a plan. Make a plan begins with getting pre-approved, figuring out, how much can I buy, how much is the payment going to be based on certain price points for my qualification standards. Then you go look at properties that meet that and see if you can find something that you can make work. If you can't find something that you can make work, then you've got to figure out what the gap is. What's the gap between where you're at and where something would work for you? How do we close that gap?
Mm-hmm.
The down payment, the simplest thing to do if you can is to, if you don't have any savings or whatever it may be, try to get a gift from parents and aunts and uncle. Everybody's got a rich uncle somewhere. Tell them to pay them back, whatever. You can get a gift from a family member. It's very easy to do, and it doesn't affect your loan in any way. So figure out how you can do it. So don't look at it from a I can't standpoint. Look at it from how can we make this happen? Because it's all about getting years kicked off behind you. You want years in the rearview mirror of you owning real estate and not out in the future. Out in the future, real estate would be more expensive. Out in the future, it would be more difficult to purchase. I can almost guarantee that based on what's happening on a macro scale right now.
Yeah.
So with that being the case, then sooner is better. And that's been true for the last 11 years, let's say, here in San Diego. Maybe 12, for sure 11. So if that's the case, then we do need to make a plan. We need to make a plan sooner rather than later. If we have to, say, move out of this 4-bedroom house that we really like into a 3-bedroom townhome and figure out how to make it work, I'm telling you, you're going to want to do that, because the alternative is going to be when that really nice old lady landlord that you have passes away, her kids will probably sell the house. And if they don't, they're definitely going to come in and get market rent. And then what? Now your hand's going to be forced. Now you're going to be back up against the wall. Now you're going to have a gun to your head and have to figure out what you're going to do. It's hard to buy a house that way, so you're probably going to end up going or renting somewhere else at market rent and starting the cycle all over from a much worse position. In fact, for people who can, if you're a single individual or maybe you're a young couple, you don't have kids yet, if you can live with parents for a year or something like that and save money, do that. This is all part of the plan, though. You got to make a plan. You got to figure out, how can we do this? How can we make this happen? You may have to do a little bit of sacrificing. That's what separates people who are able to grab big gains like you did, by pulling the trigger, and people who are still renting 11 years later. I talk to people every day who have been renting for 17 years.
Yeah. And I just think of all that rent wasted, like gone. At least if you put it into a house or something like that, you at least have it like that you can refinance or you can sell and take that money out or something like that. That's how I look at it.
It's harsh. It's harsh reality. And so it's like, okay, all right, let's get 17 years. At least you're getting on the set in the horse now. Let's get you in, figure out how we can make this work. Because obviously waiting longer would even just be worse.
Yeah.
And so, most people get triggered by that. Like, hey, I'll ask people, hey, does your landlord send you a Christmas gift? You pay the rent on time, right? Yeah, they should. Right? Yeah. They should. If you're doing them a solid, you're paying off their house for them.
That's the thing is once you get, like, that's the way I looked at it, is like every year my landlord raised my rent. Some people have a good landlord, but at least if you own, your rent never gets raised. It's the same for the next 30 years. And if anything, you can make it less by refinancing down the line. So I just look at it like that. Okay, it might be more expensive for the next 5 years, but as the trend of rent is going up, it'll eventually break even and then actually be cheaper. So
and that's why technically when you buy your primary home, it's not really an investment. Technically, I mean, a hedge is an investment, but it's technically a hedge. Mm-hmm. And you're hedging your housing costs. You're saying, hey, I'm going to put my housing cost at this amount, and it'll be fixed there for 30 years. And then at the end of that 30-year period, it'll go down to zero. And that's basically what you're doing when you buy a home. You're hedging your housing costs down to a manageable number. And sometimes, though, when you hedge, you have to pay up. So if you're paying $2,700 a month in rent, maybe now you have to buy this place for $3,000, but at least it's fixed. So 2 or 3 years from now, when the rent is $3,200, you're still paying $3,000.
Yeah,
and that's the difference and where you can actually take control of the situation that you own. You are renting, unfortunately, you're at the whims of the market, and the market right now, here's the thing that's crazy, man. Most landlords, I think you might be one of them, don't realize how much rent they could be getting for the properties yet. Okay?
So they're undercharging, is what you're saying?
Undercharging significantly. So, for example, I have a guy who just bought a house and he qualified enough that he didn't have to sell his place. He's going to rent it out. So he bought this place, goes to rent it out, followed up with him to see how it's going, and he had over 100 applications in 24 hours. And the thing that he said that was crazy and stuck out to me was he said, I've never seen, he rented the house before because he owned it as a rental and moved back to it. And he said, I've never had this many applications. I've never had this many quality applications. I've never had so many doctors, executives, people offering to pay the full first year in cash, people running multi-year leases. So I told him, I said, Mike, you need to just increase the rent. I said, relist it for $500 or $1,000 a month more. And just thin it out, to the people who really, really need it. And he listed it for $500 more and got someone to pay all cash the first year. So, landlords don't realize, a lot of them don't realize even yet where the rental market is. So if you think rent's high now, wait as people continue to figure out how high it is and correct the charging rent. Now, your place you're talking about, $2,900, I think it's a good deal, bro. I think you probably could have got 32, 33, something like that.
Yeah.
But you're happy with 29, right? So you're like, hey, this is great. I'm happy. The tenant's happy. Maybe they'll stay forever now. But there are a lot of people leaving money on the table when it comes to rent. So expect rents to continue to go higher, even if the market stays flat, just because of that realization and the lack of inventory.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Maybe I'll rethink my rent in year lease time. But so interesting. I don't know how accurate these are, but Zillow gives you like an estimate on where the market's going in the next year. And they gave me an estimate of my zip code is going to go up 18% next year. And I literally had, what did we come off? Like 10% for San Diego over the past year already? Something like that. 20? Geez. Okay. So we're on for another. That's what Zillow predicts. So here's my biggest question that everyone probably wants to ask. We kind of touched on it a little bit. Michael Burry, who sounded the alarm in 2008, that crash. Now I know there's more going into it's a financial crash and a housing crash, everything like that. He's saying that this reminds him similar to the .com, to the 08 crash, all the things that are going on, stocks, everything like that. He's hedging his bets that it's going to crash. What do you think? Now, obviously, maybe not in the next year, but let's look 5 years out. And your expertise, do you see anything on the horizon that could warrant a massive crash? Now, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but is there anything on the horizon that maybe this could be the trigger that ends up happening, the domino effect that causes the crash?
I've been looking for it. So I've been looking for what am I missing? What am I not seeing? I keep looking for it. Hey, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And I don't see it. And the main issue that we have right now is inventory, and that has to do with construction issues. So if we look back in 2008, for example, we have 12 million less homes for sale now than we did back then. 12 million less homes for sale, 13 years later. So we also, this past decade, 2010 to 2020, first time since the 50s that we didn't build 10 million homes a year. In some years, we built well over 10 million homes. And that stretch, we built just over 5 million. And what you're seeing is two things coming into play. Number one, all the really good places to build. So places that are remaining, the areas that you can build new homes now are more difficult to build on. So it's a harder thing to do, therefore it's more risky, so there's less builders who want to do it. The builders like nice and simple. They want a nice big flat piece of land they can go and set up a place and sell affordable homes. They don't want to have to charge $1 million a house just to make a pencil, because that's very risky for them, right? And so what's happened is all the easy, simple, good places to build are gone. And so now it's left with difficult ones, on top of the fact that there's increased regulations with regard to construction.
Yeah.
So all of those things are pinching down new construction significantly. And we're millions and millions and millions of homes behind just the organic demand, population growth, not to mention the 4 or 5 million homes we got behind after the crash. The builders basically shut down things for a while. Just didn't so we are way, way, way behind. It'll take at least a decade to catch up with that. And so in the meantime, could we crash? I just don't know how. I don't see how we could. I don't have a catalyst. With regard to Burry, by the way, I follow that. Here's the thing about bears, man. Bears are always bearish. They always see the negative. They're just pessimistic.
That's true.
He also said when Bitcoin was at 30,000, he said, "Hey, you know, and so he was saying that Bitcoin was a bad buy at 30,000. He's wrong all the time.
Yeah.
So the thing about bears, though, is if they're really successful like he is, what they do is they make really, really, really big bets. You know, with leverage. What he did with those CDOs, right? He did a huge leverage bet. He put his whole career on the line. He would have been homeless, okay, if he'd been wrong about that. So it's crazy, right? And but he was correct, and it actually worked out, and he did get paid. So he did the right thing that a bear should do, which is leverage your position with a small amount of money to make a big amount of money if you're right, and just do it a lot, and you'll hit one, and it'll be worth it. If you make 20 to 1, you only have to hit 1 in 10, you know, to make a good amount of money. So that's kind of what his strategy is. So he's going to be bearish a lot. The biggest thing that you don't have right now, though, is you don't have the manipulation of Wall Street involved, you know, with the collateralizing of mortgages and therefore real estate that we had back then. That was actually what caused the problem. It wasn't because anything people did. It was because of the way that Wall Street milked it for all its worth and didn't care who they hurt in the process. And some of the disgusting things you can imagine.
Yeah.
I think that was probably one of the worst.
So from what you are saying, you don't really see anything that is sounding the alarms, so to speak. It's going to take.
I see the opposite. I see the opposite. I see a continually climbing, low inventory environment where you don't need a lot of demand for prices to continue to go higher. Sellers don't have a ton of options, so they're not motivated to sell.
Yeah.
And therefore, you know, you're going to have a lot more people turning 33 for the next 4 years, and then it steadies off for a while. You know, even if rates go up 1%, even if, you know, some more inventory comes on the market, even if, you know, some of these things that would help a crash or help move toward being better, more of a buyer's market happen, they'll be welcomed into this market because we are in such a strong seller's market. We need a lot of those things to happen just to balance things out. And then you're talking about pushing it even further down that same line. I don't even know if we can get to a balanced market, man, much less a crash.
Wow, that's crazy. I always thought in my mind, if rates go up, then housing prices would go down because now it costs more for that same house. Is that true usually? If rates all of a sudden shoot up, I mean, whether around 3%, they'll go up to, let's say, like 4 or 5%. Would that happen?
It will. It will take some buyers out of the market, for sure. Or it'll shift their price points, or shift them from looking at a detached to looking at an attached. But it won't change the whole macro scenario. One of the things we have right now is we have 38% of homes that are being purchased in San Diego all cash. So financing and interest rate doesn't even matter.
That's true.
There's a lot of people putting, and that's 38% all cash. There's a lot of people putting huge down payments. A lot of money coming from all over the world. San Diego is not a secret anymore. People are coming from LA, Silicon Valley, Canada, the East Coast, you name it. People are coming in from everywhere. Work from home is full force. People want to be where the palm trees are. People want to be where the perfect weather is. People want to be where you can, walk across the border into Mexico, go up and be in the mountains, go and be in the ocean on the same day. People want to be here. So
Yeah.
that isn't changing. That is not changing, and it's just going to continue to get stronger. The thing that I look for in a catalyst right now, that I would say, hey, is there some inventory catalyst that we can't see? Is there a wave of foreclosures coming from forbearances? Is there, a whole bunch of people who are going to be laid off or whatever? You're not going to have foreclosures. You can't even talk about foreclosures when properties are up so much in value. Even if you bought your home a year ago and you just got laid off and say you didn't want to take the vaccine and you got laid off from your job, you just do a regular sale. You're not going to foreclose.
Yeah.
You do a regular sale and you're going to make a huge profit.
A couple $100,000 in like a year.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of times people doing that. So there's no foreclosure. In order for there to be foreclosure, people need to be in a situation where there's no money to be made and they don't want to get the money they put in back anymore. They're not worried about it. And we're not anywhere near that. So unless I can find a catalyst, which I've been looking for, or we see some sort of something that's going to bring new inventory in at a very, very rapid pace, in a big way, that nothing is changing the trajectory of this market. Even if it balances out a little bit, and it goes from being like a 99 sellers market to an 80 sellers market, it's still a seller's market. And it's going to be for a while. So buyers have to buck up here. It's not an easy place to be a buyer, but you have to understand the macro implications. I think to really motivate yourself appropriately. Or get your clock ticking. You got 30 years to pay a house off. Let's get that clock ticking sooner rather than later.
Yes, exactly. I mean, just look at the history. If you go back, I think my previous house was sold in 79 or 80, and I think it was like $60,000 or something like that, right? So, I mean, everything will go up. But once again, thank you for coming on, telling us about the market and stuff. You're a busy guy. You have the rest of the day, so it's early. But again, thanks. Is there anything you want to plug? Your YouTube channel, the Instagram or Twitter, whatever you got.
SmartSanDiego.tv will get you to the YouTube channel. You can email me there. My contact information. If you have a question about buying or rebuying or want to chat about any of that stuff, I'll be available. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, man.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And that will conclude our broadcast.
Cool, rock and roll.
All right.